I see the born of no return. Sister, hey now, can't you see we're rushing for the end? I see the point of no return. Now I see the point of no return. It's just
Well, good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday again, and you are listening to Wide Awake News on the Rents Radio Network. My name is Gary Hendershot, and for about the next hour or so, I'm going to be barking at the moon, as if anybody out there was listening or really cared. I hope you're all still Ebola free. I mean, have you gotten over the latest bogeyman yet? You know, I shouldn't downplay it, because this Ebola thing is, it's for real. Everybody has got their opinions on this. I've heard some wild and crazy rumors about how this particular infection of Ebola escaped a lab somewhere in Sierra Leone that was financed by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They were supposedly working on a vaccine for Ebola, and they were trying it out on some of the locals. Well, gee, how do you know if it's going to work? You've given everybody this vaccine. How do you know if it's going to work? Well, maybe a nice little controlled infection to see if this vaccine provides any immunological type defense, and oops, maybe they broke a test tube or what. Look, I've heard all sorts of wild cockamamie rumors, but we have seen periodic flare-ups of this Ebola virus coming out of that part of the world from time to time. It's happened. It was first identified back in the 1970s, and there does seem to be periodic flare-ups of the thing. It is kind of unusual that it got out of control so fast, particularly in Sierra Leone and Liberia. Although I understand the Congo has been impacted, Nigeria has been impacted. And, of course, we've now had 2 confirmed infections here in the United States that resulted from exposure to one fella who flew in from Liberia and happened to be infected. What's the real story on Ebola? Well, it's like everything else. We're all going to have our opinions, and I think it's probably best that we just agree to disagree. At least right now in Europe, the United States, and Asia, it appears that any flare-up has been pretty well contained. At least we hope so. Even the family who was directly exposed to this guy who flew in from Liberia has been released from quarantine. Apparently they spent their 21-day incubation period sequestered and showed no infection. Now, these are people who lived in close proximity to this man for at least a week before he was finally admitted to the hospital with obvious signs of infection. They lived there for another week after he was in the hospital. They breathed the same air, touched the same objects, and I guess in the case of his girlfriend, fiance, whatever, slept in the same bed with this man and did not become infected. Okay. Now, we've heard a lot of varying stories about vectors of infection. Some have claimed, oh, this is a new scary type of Ebola that's airborne, and we got to be extra scared of it. Well, it doesn't seem to be any definite proof of that. It's like so many of the events of the day. I think you have to kind of be skeptical about some of the reports about Ebola. It appears that it's not as easy to catch as some of the fearmongers would have you believe. But if you happen to be unfortunate enough to catch it, it's as bad as anything you could possibly imagine. One of the things that keeps coming up is that this particular variant of Ebola might somehow be manipulated to prefer infecting black people. This has been proposed by a number of people. I mean, I've not seen it, put out there by anyone who would be a recognized scientific authority or anything of that nature, but it's being proposed by some who are looking at the vectors of infection. And, they keep referring back to the fact that, it seems that most all the white people that have been infected with this particular strain of Ebola have miraculously been cured. But, it just seems to devastate black people. Now, of course, the fact that most of the black people being infected are in parts of the world where medical care by our standards is pretty meager might have something to do with it. Not really sure. But we do have an interesting test case to kind of keep an eye on here in the United States. Right now we have 2 medical workers that are known to be infected with Ebola. One of those infected happens to be a black lady. The other happens to be an Asian lady. I guess it'll be interesting to see how that one turns out. Moving on to some economic news of the day. I mean, how's the economy from your point of view? I mean, you got plenty of work, you making a decent living, you keeping your bills paid, or are you just barely keeping your head above water? Well, according to, the guys who wheel and deal in stocks, the economy's been pretty good here recently. Stocks keep just chugging along. The stock market looks like a good place to be, right? Well, interesting article from Zero Hedge. We have all seen it countless times before, visual confirmation that without the Fed's and other central banks' liquidity pump, the S&P would be about 70% lower than where it is now. Now, some fellows have been proposing for quite some time that the reason the stock market looks like a great place to be is that this so-called plunge protection team, or basically the Federal Reserve, every once in a while just drops a big chunk of money out there that the bankers, invest in stocks, and that tends to keep stock prices up. So anytime you start seeing the stock market starting to take a little bit of a dip, the Fed rushes in, dumps a bunch of money on them. Well, they got no place else to spend that money. I mean, it's not like they're going to go buy something from you or hire you to, do something for them. No. Right now, the safest place for these guys to park their money is in the stock market, because the stock market just keeps going up and up and up, right? Right? Yeah. Well, it's been kind of hard to figure just, what this is actually costing, because, the Fed is a little shy about discussing with us just how much of this so-called quantitative easing is going to prop up the stock market. But, some smart fellows have have kind of figured it out. Well, here's one guy. We think the market's weakness owes more to an almost belated reaction to a temporary lull in central bank stimulus. Now, what he's saying is the reason the stock market is dipping down a little bit is because the central bank has turned off the spigot. Okay? While the relationship is not perfect, liquidity flow across asset classes. I love these big words. Why don't they come out and tell us what they mean? And addition to the straightforward impact on net supply, it is this, not fundamentals. Okay, when you talk to these stock guys, they're always talking about fundamentals. Yeah. Well, the market no longer runs according to their so-called fundamentals. Now, if you happen to know at what point in the month the Fed is going to pump some money, you got the inside skinny on when to buy. You can front run them. The Fed is going to pump $200 billion. And yeah, they're pumping about $200 billion per month into the economy to artificially make stocks look tasty so that your retirement fund, your 401k, your IRA, whatever, continues to be invested in a stock market that some who are fairly knowledgeable on such things would indicate are 70% overvalued. Well, the moral of the story is, if at any time the Fed turns off the spigot and we once again have to rely on market fundamentals to set the value of stocks, they're going to take a rough estimate, 70% drop in value. So you may be patting yourself on the back looking at your 401k thinking, oh boy, I got X in my 401k. I'm in good shape. I am set and ready for retirement. Let's see what happens after the next presidential elections. Let's see if the political impetus to continue pumping money into the stock market remains. Let's see what happens to your 401k or your IRA after the next presidential elections. Could be interesting times. I guarantee you that at least until the end of the next election cycle, not this little one coming up in November, we've got a little bitty election cycle coming up here, but 2016 is the big one. And I think you can bet that, the stock market will probably be a pretty safe place to park your retirement money, at least until the 2016 election cycle's over. Once that's completed, the excitement about having the Fed pump money to artificially prop up a market that has no relationship with reality might just disappear. We'll have to see. Are you one of the 500 million people worldwide whose financial records have recently been hacked? We've heard about, Target got zapped and Home Depot got zapped and, a couple other, big name retailers. Well, what they're not telling you is that bank robbery is no longer a stocking mask and a gun, walk in the front, point the gun at the teller and say, give me all your cash. That's not how it's done in the modern age. There have been a number of hacks directly against financial institutions, and some say as many as 500 million financial records are in the hands of thieves. Now, these days, if you're like most, and you do business the way most people do it, I'm going to hear that music at any moment here. I might have to save this one until after the break. I think I got. I'm not sure when the darn break starts. Bottom line is, be looking at your credit card bills. Be looking at your statements. Don't expect them to reach into your account and grab thousands of dollars at a time. The way these crooks work is they hack 500 million accounts, and they tap each of 500 million accounts for maybe 2, 3, 4, some odd number, $4.84. And you see this little thing on your credit card, $4.84. Where did I spend $4.84? And you don't even think about it. You let it slide. You don't bring it up to your banker's attention because, I'm not sure where I spent that $4.85, but I guess I did somewhere. Well, if you're hitting 500 million accounts worldwide, each for $2, $3, $4, $5 at a time, you can see where cyber criminals can have a very lucrative income. So all those of you who have not been able to find work recently, you might want to look into becoming a cyber criminal, as that seems to be an up-and-coming income opportunity. Yeah, and if you believe that, but, hey, check your credit card accounts. Check your statements. It's happening to a lot of people. Little story on the side, my wife got hit. Now, in our case, she got hit for a big chunk of change. Somebody hit her for $3,000. And I'm looking at the bill, did you buy $3,000 worth of jewelry someplace in Missouri? No. Okay, so, when it's big money like that, it stands out. It sticks out like a sore thumb. You can't miss it. But you might just be surprised if you go back over your credit card bills over the last few months. See if maybe there's some little bitty, $2, $3, $4, $5, $6 charges on there that just don't look like anything you've ever done business about. You may just be surprised. You may have been a victim of a cyber criminal and not even know. It's happened to a lot of people. It's happening to them right now. Did you know that there are contractors working on the Obamacare website whose entire job it is to sit on the Obamacare website and hit the refresh button? Yeah, they're still having trouble with the Obamacare website. Employees at Obamacare Processing Center in Missouri with a contract worth $1.2 billion are reportedly getting paid to do nothing but sit at their computers and push refresh. The whistleblower employee told the station that week can pass without data entry workers receiving even a single application to process. Employees reportedly spend their days staring at their computers. They're probably looking at porn or Netflix or whatever. Every once in a while they got to hit that refresh button on the Obamacare website. That's their job. They're told to sit at their computers and hit the refresh button every 10 minutes. No more than every 10 minutes, the employee said. They're monitored to hopefully look for an application. Basically what they're supposedly doing is correcting improperly filled out Obamacare applications. Apparently the site is still so contorted and so confused, and the data coming out of this thing is such a mess that they have hired a gaggle of people to sit there to try to correct these errors. Unfortunately, there aren't enough applications coming in to make these people, to give these people an appropriate amount of work. So all you people out there who have not yet signed up for your Obamacare, get on the Obamacare website and sign right up, because your government needs more of your money, and you're being lackadaisical by not signing up for that their Obamacare. They need that money. Honest. They got to have it. If you don't sign up for Obamacare, we're going to have a carbon tax. Yeah. Or, maybe we'll have a carbon tax too, because after all, if you aren't a source of revenue, you are indeed by definition a useless eater. So open your wallet, Mr. and Mrs. America, pay up. Your government needs your money so they can go bomb more brown people all around the world, because that's about all they're really good for. Yeah. One more little ditty on Obamacare here. I just love Obamacare. I'm so thankful for Obamacare. Thank you for that free health care. Thank you, President Obama, for my free health care. Study comes in the wake of a number of lawsuits which are challenging the Obama administration's implementation of Obamacare subsidies. Bottom line, they're saying, hey, if the subsidies fail, Obamacare fails. Oh my goodness. The problem is everybody who signed up for Obamacare is subsidized. We need more of you full paying, retail paying, all you working people out there who will pay the full price for Obamacare. We need you to sign up now. Otherwise, we won't be able to afford all the subsidies we promised everybody else. So open your wallet and sign up, damn it. Hey, I'm hearing the music. I've got to slide out of here for a short commercial break. I'll be right back with some more Barking at the Moon. Alrighty, and we're back from that blatantly commercial interruption to the evening's activities. In Arizona, Maricopa, Arizona, is a man who's, I guess you could say, divisive. I mean, you either like this guy or you hate this guy. And in some cases, you like some of what he does and you hate some of what he does. But Sheriff Joe Arpaio, was on Newsmax TV's America's Forum recently. And Arpaio said he was unable to convince top U.S. law enforcement officials to step foot inside of Mexico to try and work on border security issues. I'm not sure if you remember, but here recently, there was a Mexican helicopter that flew across the border, supposedly chasing some drug dealers or something. Apparently mistook our border guards for the drug dealers and fired machine guns at our border guards. Okay, I mean, this is a Mexican helicopter flew across the border and shot at our border enforcement guys. Well, it was all big mistake. They thought they were dealing with drug dealers. Well, Arpaio's point of view is, hey, we need to go to the source to solve this problem. We need to chase these guys right into Mexico. And apparently, Joe Arpaio's position has been shot down. I can't imagine why. While trying to work on initiatives to help stop the flow of illegal immigrants and drugs flooding our borders with Mexico, Arpaio said, I'll tell you what's sad. All the top law enforcement officials told me, don't go into Mexico. Isn't that sad? Law enforcement is afraid to cross the border and go inside Mexico. I just can't believe it. I did talk to 4 federal officers. I had to stick my arm through the fence to shake their hand. Yeah. Like I say, you got to either love him or hate him. There's very, very little in between with Sheriff Joe. As President Obama readies a post-election immigration plan. Notice they're not going to do this right now because it might influence your vote. I mean, if you had fresh in your mind the day you were going to go push the button or pull the lever or stick the hanging Chad, whatever, to cast your ballot, if you had it fresh in your mind that, the Demopublicans were the ones who just, legalized 30 to 50 million illegal immigrants and signed them up, to be American citizens. If you had that fresh in your mind, you might vote for the Republicrats instead. So, Obama don't want to do nothing that might influence the elections. But right after the elections, you can pretty much bet that there will be a blanket amnesty that will probably cover somewhere around 30 million. I understand they're already printing up the papers for about 30 million new Americans. Now, to put that in perspective, okay, there are roughly 315 million of us right now. So if you add 30 million to the melting pot, you've just increased our population 10% overnight during a period of time with ridiculously high unemployment. Although I understand today the official numbers, right before the elections, only 2 weeks before the midterm elections, and just 2 weeks before the midterm elections, I understand that the official unemployment rate has dropped down below 6% for the first time in many, many years. Happy days are here again. Yeah, but when you look at the labor participation rate, we've got about 90 million people, roughly a third of the U.S. population, who is either unemployed, underemployed, or getting by doing odd jobs here and there. These people would take full-time work if they could find full-time work that did not involve saying, you want fries with that? Now, I don't know how to say you want fries with that in Spanish, but it looks like that's what you have to look forward to. Your culture is being diluted. You had best start learning the Mexican national anthem, and you had best be learning how to speak Spanish, preferably not with a southern accent, because that's a dead giveaway. Not to worry, though. The State Department to the rescue. State Department is going to spend $357,000 to beef up border security. Yeah, the State Department. Let me read this article here. Sorry. We're going to beef up border security in Ukraine, not the United States. Oh, okay. Never mind. It is kind of frustrating. Yeah, the State Department, according to the Federal Budget Opportunities website, the State Department is spending $357,000 on sport utility vehicles to beef up security on Ukraine's border. Okay. I mean, sometimes truth is funnier than fiction. Boy, the contract was conducted through the U.S. Regional Procurement Office in Frankfurt, Germany. Apparently, a German firm is going to get the contract. I didn't even give the contract to a U.S. firm. Okay. Gotta love it. Absolutely gotta love it. With all the various distractions, we've got, rumblings that World War III could start at any minute. I mean, we got, nonsense going on. Did you hear the latest out of Syria? See, Turkey wants us to set up a no-fly zone over Syria so that they have made it a condition of their participation in any cooperative venture to kick these guys, ISIS's ass. We're trying to get this coalition, and we kind of like, because Turkey's right there on the border with Syria, and they've got a pretty tough military. I mean, Turkey's, they've got a pretty tough army. They're very well equipped, very well manned. But Turkey has said, look, we really don't want to send our boys over the border into Syria unless the U.S. enforces a no-fly zone over Syria. So, the buzz started coming around that, okay, we got to set us up a no-fly zone so, we can fight this ISIL, ISIS, or whatever the heck you want to call them this week, whatever the name of the boogeyman, Baghdadi boogeyman has this week. But the problem is this ISIS or IS or whatever they're calling themselves this week, they ain't got no airplanes. Well, they got a couple tired old Piper Cubs. Actually, word has come out now that ISIS has, count them, 3 Cold War era MiGs, where these things are, absolute antiques, and they've got Iraqi pilots who are prepared to fly it. So now all of a sudden there is a justification to set up a no-fly zone over Syria. Now, here's the thing. Syria has a very capable anti-aircraft system that was sold to them by the Russians. One of the reasons the United States is a little timid about flying into certain areas, well, I'm hearing the music. Yeah, I'm going to have to slide out of here for a moment while the studio sells a few more products, but we'll be back with some summations on this topic when I do some more barking at the moon right after these messages. All right, and we're back. Talking about all the various distractions. You got to see Ebola thing that, I hope that one turns out to just be yet another distraction. Although, they got the guy who they have hired in to be the Ebola czar. This guy has no medical qualifications at all. I mean, the guy is nothing but a political hacks. He is what is known in the political circles as a fixer. He's the guy who's going to come in and figure out how they can spin this Ebola thing for maximum political advantage. That's his job. He has no concept of how to handle an epidemic or anything of that nature. I mean, this guy has no qualifications in that area. Our new Ebola czar is simply a political hack who knows how to get votes and or money based on some disaster. That's what he does. Now, the real agenda seems to be to keep money flowing in to the big fat bankers as if they didn't already have enough. Let's face it, they got your money, they got my money, they got our grandkids' money, they got our great-great-grandkids' money, and they got our great-great-great-great-grandkids' money. Okay, that's how greedy these guys are, how bad they've been stealing with both hands. But they need more. So the agenda is to make sure that they get more and you get less. The other agenda is to make sure that the military-industrial complex, as Eisenhower put it, stays fat and happy. Okay? And those boys need wars. They need to be dropping bombs so that the United States government has an incentive to buy new bombs. After all, if you leave these bombs laying around in a warehouse somewhere, they get stale. It's kind of like a stale cigar, You don't want to be smoking stale cigars. You want nice, fresh cigars. And that's how it is with bombs. So you got these warehouses full of bombs. You need to drop those bombs on somebody so that you can get nice, fresh, new bombs into the warehouses. So that seems to be the big agenda here in the United States. Keep those bankers fat and happy, and keep that military-industrial complex pumping out bombs to blow up more brown people so we can go try and steal their stuff. So we got all these various distractions. Notice what's never in the news. Remember Fukushima? Is anybody even talking about Fukushima anymore? And that one is the gift that just keeps on giving. Well, a report finally came out in October, just this month, that they are finally admitting that Fukushima was at least 4 times as bad as Chernobyl. I'm constantly hearing, oh, well, Chernobyl, this and that, Chernobyl, that. Yeah, everybody survived. It's no big deal. They don't talk about, the heroic actions of so many helicopter pilots who flew in there to dump concrete on that mess, knowing full well that they were getting fatal doses of radiation. Okay, I mean, you talk about unsung heroes. We don't even know these guys' names. We don't even know, not in the West, I'm sure the Russians, the Ukrainians, whose people these probably were, because, Chernobyl happened, that was in Ukraine. Absolute heroism kept Chernobyl from being any worse than it was. And it was still a fairly devastating nuclear accident. Reindeer in Finland are still radioactive from Chernobyl. Pine trees in forests in Germany still register higher than normal radiation from Chernobyl. Yet, nobody seems the least bit concerned about Fukushima, and they have finally admitted that the Fukushima disaster put at least 4 times as much radionucleotides into the environment as Chernobyl. Yeah, most of it didn't stay nice and local to Fukushima like it did with Chernobyl. Now, some of the stuff that came out of Chernobyl did go airborne. And that's why, all the way up in Finland and Germany, all over Europe, they see little bits of spurious radiation that they can attribute to Chernobyl. But, for the most part, it stayed kind of local in that area. The problem with Fukushima is that plant sits right on a major aquifer that flows down from the mountains right underneath the plant and flows right out into the ocean. And the vast majority of the radioactive nucleotides coming off of Fukushima are going right into the Pacific Ocean. And with currents being what currents are, eventually that radiation will be spread throughout the entire planet. Now, for right now, we only have to worry about the northern Pacific area, the fishing grounds off Alaska and Canada. Those areas are probably being affected right now, though you're not seeing any reports of it. And if you like to surf off the coast of California, you might want to wear a radiation suit when you're doing your surfing in the near future. When will it get into the South Pacific? When do the folks down in Australia and New Zealand have to worry about it? When do the folks down in Peru have? Well, strangely enough, they're already registering slightly elevated levels of some radioactive nucleotides off of Peru. So, Chernobyl, it was kind of local to a very specific piece of turf on the face of the earth. And you can put a fence around it, kind of, and say, hey, don't go in here. It's dangerous to go in there. Fukushima is a little different. Not only is it putting out a hell of a lot more radiation, contamination, poison than what Chernobyl put out, but it's spreading it worldwide. Kind of makes you wonder why none of the investigative news agencies, why isn't 60 Minutes, why aren't they talking about this? I mean, this is serious stuff. Nobody has a clue what to do about cleaning it up or stopping it. There is no plan. And this could be going on for decades and decades to come. Your great-great-great-great-grandchildren may be breathing freshly created cesium-137 that just came off the waste at Fukushima 100 years, 200 years from now. But don't expect to hear a word about it in the news. French scientists have apparently come up with a test for Ebola that is as easy to use as a pregnancy test, or so that's how they're advertising it. The diagnostic tool, not yet approved by regulators, works by monoclonal antibodies reacting to the presence of a virus in a tiny sample, which can be a drop of blood, plasma, or urine. So, right now, about the best test they're using in most places in the world is they're using one of those little infrared thermometer things. They point it at you. You know, if you don't have an elevated temperature, okay, yeah, you can get on that plane with 300 other people. Not even thinking that, you know, a few Advil, a few Tylenols will tend to bring your fever down. And but hey, that's what they're using to check people getting on airplanes coming out of these infected areas. That's how they determine whether or not they might be suspect. They just take their temperature. If it's within a degree or so, they're okay. They can fly. Well, this new test, they're saying is supposed to be pretty accurate. Now, when this might actually be distributed and be out there and be available, Lord only knows. One of my biggest concerns about this Ebola thing is that in the rush to make money off of it, now with our Ebola czar, he's going to have he's going to be thinking, okay, how can we make a buck off of this? How can we make some political? That's what he's there to do. In their rush to find a way to make money off of Ebola, they're going to come out with some kind of vaccine that's going to be like that last when pigs fly flu vaccine. The vaccine is going to kill more people than the flu, and this is what concerns me: is that the Ebola vaccine that they pull out of there is going to kill more people with Ebola than it cures. That is the history of how these things go. But it takes typically a couple of years to test a vaccine for its efficacy, its ability to control the virus that you're trying to produce an immunity to. What worries me is that they might rush something out to try to make hay while the sun shines, and the vaccine could be worse than the disease. It's just hard to say. They could really use something in Sierra Leone and Liberia. In Sierra Leone, they're now up to about 20 deaths daily due to Ebola. 20 people a day are dying of Ebola. Now, here in America, we probably have 2,000 a day die in automobile. Well, it's probably not that bad, but still, But Sierra Leone is a tiny little West African country. I'm not sure exactly what their population is, but to them, 20 deaths a day is a significant. It's more than just a blip on the radar screen. This is serious, and it's not much better in Liberia. The Liberia, it's so bad in Liberia. Their medical system has darn near collapsed. If not for the help of some very valiant doctors who've been sent in by Cuba, the U.S. sends military to make sure that the resources are secured. The Cubans send in doctors. If not, for their efforts, there'd be very little health care going on in Liberia and Sierra Leone right now. Again, one of my concerns about sending U.S. military into these infected areas with no hazmat gear, no protection against infection, is that, you sometimes wonder, here again, I got to put my tinfoil hat on. This is, one of these conspiratorial things. Are they using our military as guinea pigs in the development of an Ebola vaccine? Oy vey. It's a type of thing that you can easily imagine them doing. Well, I'm hearing the music. That's it. Time for me to bag it. I've done enough barking at the moon for this week. I'll be back next Tuesday, and we'll do it again. Good night, all. I guess I should unmute my microphone if I'm going to do a post show here. Let's see here. So you guys haven't had enough of me for one night yet? Hey, I did have one really cute article that I kind of want. I didn't have an opportunity to get to it, and this is, it's kind of a funny article. As I mentioned during the progress of the show, we've got our midterm elections here in the United States coming up next month. We're only a couple weeks away at this point, which is kind of why I thought it was a timely thing to have that politician in here last week. He represents the Libertarian Party here in my state, and I thought it might be interesting to hear, the Libertarian point of view on things, seeing as how that's supposed to be our third choice. There were some things he said that I agreed with, some things he said I didn't. But if you think you're ever going to find a politician or a set of policies that are 100% your way, you need to go down to Burger King and get it your way. Do they still do that? Yeah. Oh, well. But it is the election season here. And I'm going to put a video over my shoulder here now, a little bit of a setup for this video. And I'll probably get a copyright strike for stealing this video. I'm not even sure who I stole it from. I stole it off of YouTube from somebody. But here's the setup on this. An Arizona County party official said he saw a man stuffing hundreds of ballots into the ballot box and later told a local news outlet the entire incident was caught on surveillance video. And that surveillance video is the one I'm going to run in just a moment. A person wearing a Citizens for a Better Arizona t-shirt dropped a large box of hundreds of early ballots on the table and started stuffing the ballot box as I watched in amazement, said A.J. LaFaro, chairman of the Maricopa County, Sheriff Joe's County, chairman of the Maricopa County Republican Party. The Maricopa County GOP chairman provided the Arizona Daily Independent with the following account of what happened during the August 26th primary election cycle. Guy, what's your problem? LaFaro, I don't have a problem. Guy, stop watching me. You're annoying me. Guy, one of your ballots isn't sealed. LaFaro, one of your ballots isn't sealed. Guy, it's none of your business. What's your name? LaFaro, I'm the chairman of the Maricopa County Republican Party. What's yours? Guy, go fuck yourself. I don't have to tell you who I am. And he continues to stuff the ballot. Now, watch the video. All right, here it is. All right, here's the old geezer comes in. He's got one ballot in his hand, right? This is early balloting in their elections in Arizona. Okay. All right, here comes the guy. This guy's got a banker's box. Okay, and he sets him down. All right, and he proceeds to just start, taking fistfuls of ballots and just stuffing them in. Okay, what do the Democrats say? Vote early, vote often. Well, this guy took it kind of to an extreme, I think. Yes, caught on security video. Oy vey. You don't have to worry about any hanging chads in Maricopa County. Oh, boy. And here's another report on it. This is one of the reasons why, I tend to be, a little suspicious about, our elections here in the United States. We do indeed have the best government money can buy. And, I get so irritated with you voted for him. Yeah, but I only voted once. The other guy obviously had an advantage. That's not fair, okay? From Chicagoland. This comes out of Chicago. PatriotRising.com had this article. Admitting his confidence in Cook County ballot integrity is shaken. State Representative candidate Jim Moynihan, this guy's a Republican. He's 56 years old, was shocked today when he tried to cast a vote for himself. And, if you're a politician and you're running, for an elected, it's perfectly reasonable. You're going to go in there and vote for yourself, right? You're not going to vote for the other guy. So he went in there and tried to vote for himself, and the voting machine cast his ballot for his opponent instead. Yeah. While early voting at the Schaumburg Public Library today, I tried to cast a vote for myself, and instead it cast the vote for my opponent, said Moynihan. You could imagine my surprise at the same thing happening with a number of races when I tried to vote for a Republican, and the machine registered a vote for a Democrat. All right, I'm not sure there really is a moral to this story, other than if you really think we're going to affect change here in the United States by casting a ballot, you just keep on dreaming. Well, that's it. That's the last of the interesting articles that I had planned to present tonight. The voting fraud item, I really kind of hoped I was going to be able to get to that during the Rents radio broadcast, but I flat ran out of time. Yeah, it may be time to cast lead instead. Instead of casting a ballot, cast lead. It may come to that. Nobody wants it, and frankly, that's what they're geared up and ready for. That's what they want you to do. Paper ballots. Those running the elections don't want a paper ballot. It's harder to cheat if you can actually pull the papers and have them recounted by an independent third party. They don't want that. They want those votes all tallied nice and neat and electronically by a machine that they control the programming on. All right, guys. What else was in the news this past week that I just totally neglected and should have covered? Can't get lead. They closed the last lead mining. Yeah, they closed the last lead. They can't seem to get the guns away from us, so they're going to go in after our bullets. And now you can't even buy that good quality, cheap Russian ammunition. They put some kind of a zinger on Russia. Over Ukraine. What do you mean you're not going to let us have our coup in place in Ukraine? Well, we're going to put sanctions against you, Russia, for not cooperating with our invasion of Ukraine. Kim K's butt got bigger. Here, this is an interesting gig. This is how easy it is. This is how easy it is to influence public perception. I'm going to run an experiment on you right now, and let's see if this sticks. Do you remember the old gig? You're sitting around drinking with your buddies, and you say, "I double dog dare you not to think of a pink flying elephant. I dare you not to think about that pink flying elephant." And of course, everybody's sitting around the table with you, half lit up anyway. What's the first thing that happens? They start thinking about this pink flying elephant. Now, somebody put into the chat room here that Kim Kardashian's butt has even gotten bigger. Man, she does have a big booty. Some like it that way, But here's the thing: I'm gonna run a Jedi mind trick on you, okay? And I'll tell you, this will still stick with you next Tuesday when we convene for next week's show. You remember that really, really evil terrorist group that, they're even scarier than ISIS, called Kardashian? Remember that? Kardashian, the evil Arab terrorists, Kardashian. Well, you notice how they picked a name for those guys that sounds a lot like Kardashian with the big booty. So from here on out, every time you think of these evil, scary Arab terrorists, I dare you not to think of Kim Kardashian's big booty. Now, you might not think that Jedi mind trick worked, but I guarantee you, when you're here next week and I start talking about those evil ISIS terrorists just terrorizing everybody in the Middle East, you are going to get a picture in your mind of Kim Kardashian's big booty. And that's how they run the game on you. They do it every night on CNN. They get you all mesmerized looking at those hooters on the blonde. They get you all mesmerized. Looking at those big hooters, and they run Jedi mind tricks on you right and left. That's how they do it. So next week, when we're talking about all those evil ISIS terrorists just running crazy in the Middle East, you are going to have an image in your mind of Kim Kardashian's big round booty. Yeah. I dare you not to. All right. Okay, anything else I missed in the news? I hope you got a kick out of the Jedi mind trick. What? Kim's butt is a terrorist? No, but from here on out, you will associate Arab terrorists with big booties. You just won't be able to avoid it, from now on. I mean, this is for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life. When anybody says to you, terrorist, you will think, big booty. All right, what else did I miss in the news, guys? I know there was a couple of interesting items out there in the news. I mean, there's more about that Michael Brown thing that happened in Missouri. Remember the cop shot the black kid? Enough times gone by now, they figure they can, let the cop off the hook and nobody's going to raise any hell. But, the people in Missouri say, hey, yeah, if that cop that does not get indicted, there's going to be hell raised. I'm not sure if you should fear the terrorist boobs or not. Most terrorists are flat-chested. So but they got big booties, man. Yeah, it's terrorists and big booties. All right, I'm not sure I'm dealing with live ones tonight. Did you guys sit around drinking all night and you're too drunk to? Well, apparently there's a few who thought the Jedi mind trick was funny. But, I'm serious. You will now forever associate Arab terrorists with Kim Kardashian's booty. I mean, it's the Jedi mind trick. It'll affect you anyway, whether you like it or not. Yep. I think I'm done too, Zero. I've had enough of this. Any more dead bankers recently? It's becoming such a common thing that I don't even think it's newsworthy. I mean, there's bankers falling. The one interesting one that did happen today, and I'm still studying up on this one because I don't really know all the ins and outs. But there was a French CEO of a big time oil company. They basically act as a broker for Russian oil. They sell Russian oil all over the world. An outfit called Total. He had apparently been meeting with some kind of a group in Russia about plans to separate their sales of Russian oil from the U.S. dollar. And he hopped in his fancy corporate jet and was getting ready to fly out of Russia and apparently ran into a snowblower on the ground. Still looking at that one. It just happened today. Don't really know what all the ins and outs are. But apparently this oil industry CEO came down on the wrong side of, which printed piece of paper we're going to use to buy and sell oil with, and he's dead. A lot of that happening, If you even hint that you want to buy and sell oil or any major commodity on the global markets using something other than dollars, you've got a big target painted on your back. Well, I think that's going to have to be it for me, guys. Hey, I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and enjoying this week's session of barking at the moon. But I think it is about time for me to bag it and get this thing set up to post to YouTube. So thank y'all, and you betcha we'll see you again next week. Good night, all.
Calling out to you, won't you turn around? Oh, I'm calling out to you, won't you turn around?